Heard about the man that got his body chopped up and came back to life and they calling him the Black Jesus? Jesus was originally black anyway, so. This is Simeon Toko, born February 24th, 1918. Born in the Congo, Toko was known for performing miracles upon his people. He was the one that helped Congo gain independence. January 4th, 1959, they say Toko sent his army of small people against Belgian colonists. It said they saw human beings with supernatural powers, short but very muscular. The occurrences of Toko's abilities goes way back when he was younger, and 2 Portuguese workers told him that there was weeds stuck in a tractor. He started the tractor up and his body started getting chopped off. They thought they succeeded, but his body started to regenerate. After this, they got so scared, they started the Tokish church. This much power was threatening to a lot of people. He even had Catholic priests try to throw him out of a plane. But he stopped the plane midair. Not playing with niggas. The most prominent story is when Portuguese doctors tried to perform surgery on him to take his heart out. In the middle of them taking his heart out, he woke up with no heart in his body and said, "Why are you prosecuting me like this? Give me my heart back." They put his heart back ASAP. There's even a photo of him showing the scar afterwards. Before Toko died, when he was 66, he told them that more people like him were going to start coming more alive. Say his body is still undecaying today in a mountain in Angola. Shit, have you ever...
Eu, como já disse, sou o Simeon Gonçalves que estou falando convosco. A todos os nativos no território português, no Congo português. Nós somos portugueses e não somos estrangeiros. Embora entre nós alguns receberam uma educação estrangeira, não querem...
Part 2 of Simeon Toko.
Chris in Long Island, New York. Welcome to Coast. Say hi to David Wilcock.
Hey, Jimmy. Hey, Dave. How you guys doing?
Doing good, Chris.
Well, I had a question for David in terms of reading his new book, Defense Mysteries, which I'm very enjoying very much.
Thanks.
And one of the chapters was Nikola Tesla, the Pete Peterson and Nikola Tesla Black Ops.
Yep.
One of them is about Black Jesus, where the ascended being appearing in Africa.
Yep.
And I just want to know if you know any more information you would share with us, because I thought that was very captivating to me, and I just wanted more information on it.
Yeah. The Black
Thank you,
Jesus
Chris.
story. The Black Jesus story was probably one of the most shocking things I ever heard. It came from my insider, Jacob, I call him that in the book, who actually was working for the Rothschilds and still does, and also is a whistleblower who doesn't really do what they want but continues to work for them because he feels like there's some very serious extraterrestrial threats to Earth and that what they're doing is very necessary to protect us. So the story goes that in the 1960s there was a black man in Africa who came in with abilities complementary to those of Jesus. And he was performing miracles. He was starting to get people to listen to what he had to say. And the cabal tried to kill him, and, you know, they could shoot him in the head and his skull would just regenerate and the flesh would grow back, and he was fine. And, you know, so the crazy story that I heard, which, and remember, I was told at the time that if I disclosed this, that I would be killed, and I ended up putting it in the book anyway. The story was that this guy, you know, they finally said, okay, we're going to bring you to the United Nations and share your message with the world. Let's get you on this flight. They bring him on this flight, and instead of bringing him to the United Nations, they shot him repeatedly, and then actually had some kind of meat grinder device, and basically like a bandsaw, I guess, and sawed up his body into a whole bunch of pieces, put him in these very like radioactive shielded containers, and then had all these fighter jets dock with the plane and fly his body parts to all corners of the world, where then these containers turned them into ash. And they thought that maybe this would defeat him, like that his body somehow, the tissue was necessary. So if they destroyed all the tissue in all these places across the world, maybe they could defeat him. Well, he then regenerated in their offices, and was fully fine, fully intact. But the sad part is that he said, you know, you guys so badly do not want me to be here that I am not going to be able to do any more. You're going to get what you want, but bear in mind that in the future, many others like me will be coming, and when they do, you will not be able to stop us.
Wow. Wow. Well,
that is all I know. Unfortunately,
right.
There's nothing more to the story than that.
Incredible.
But it is an incredible story.
Incredible.
It is generally recounted by witnesses that Simeon Toko appeared before people in an apparitional body and in dream states while he was physically alive. At least one witness who was hired to kill him said he personally killed this man, quite professionally, as a hired killer, and saw him alive again a few days later. Others still living at the time of this writing said that they saw Toko physically slaughtered and watched him bring himself back to life before their astonished eyes. There is a very large body of testimony, of which only a little has yet been recorded or written down from eyewitnesses. This is the story of the man who single-handedly gave defeat to the Belgian army.
I wanted to do a video on a guy named Simeon Toko right quick. I've seen a few videos on him on TikTok, but I feel like he's not spoken about enough. And his story is literally top secret. The CIA, the cabal, all of them do not want nobody knowing about him. Okay, so basically he was born in 1918. And throughout the years, he literally was doing things that the Messiah was. He was performing miracles, doing stuff like that, you know. And basically the cabal, Fatima, you know, the elites tried to come down and kill him multiple times. This photo right here that I'm showing you, they literally cut out his heart one time after killing him, tried to do a diagram on it as to why he's always coming back to life. And he literally came back to life as they were doing it and asked them, why did they have his heart? There was a time where he was on helicopters and literally told the helicopter to stop, and the helicopter stopped. It didn't go back, it didn't fall, it just literally froze up in the sky. Even when he was down in the Congos, he had a ministry to himself that was devoted to him, literally. Matter of fact, I got a tape recording of somebody actually going into detail on how he literally was refusing to die and chose to die. Literally, he chose to die. I'm about to roll it right now.
Very enjoying very much.
Thanks.
And one of the chapters was Nikola Tesla, the Pete Peterson and Nikola Tesla Black Ops.
Yep.
One of them is about
nations and share your message with the world. Let's get you not going to be able to do.
There was this guy healing people. This black guy was like putting hands on people in Africa, healing them. The government captured him, and while they were like flying him to some kind of headquarters, they'd shoot him and kill him, and then his body would just regenerate. He's like, okay, look, stop doing this because it's not working. So then the people on the plane, they started moving him to another place, and while he was on the plane, they chopped him up into pieces and put his body in different containers and started separating his body. His legs are going this way, his arms are going that way, and they tried to separate him, but his body's still rejuvenated. And he said, can you guys please stop this? This is stupid. It's not gonna work. I'll leave. I'll stop doing what I'm doing. I'll stop showing these people what I can do, but understand that there's a lot more people like me, and they're gonna be coming here soon.
The problem is people think evil comes in.
Have you heard of this man? This is Simeon Toko, a Congolese black man who it is known had abilities like Jesus. Simeon Toko was a believer and was renowned for performing supernatural miracles. As he became more and more known for these supernatural miracles, people could not ignore it. And when he started to preach, more and more people would listen to him. It got to a point that he got so much recognition and notoriety from the people that the cabal had to try and stop him, tried to kill him gruesomely numerous of times. Needless to say, it never worked.
You know, they could shoot him in the head and his skull would just regenerate, the flesh would grow back, and he was fine. And remember, I was told at the time that if I disclosed this, that I would be killed.
As you heard, these attempts on his life just didn't work, and there were numerous of them. Failed after failed attempt. The cabal finally attempted a truce with him, and they said, okay, we're gonna bring you to the United Nations. You're getting some type of help from some type of God, and we're gonna let you tell your story in front of the United Nations. He later boarded a plane, and it ended up being a setup. They shot.
Many others like me will be coming, and when they do, you will not be able to stop us.
So what does Simon mean by there will be more like me coming in the future and you won't be able to stop them? Is this even biblical? The answer is yes, this is 100% biblical, and the Bible references it and talks about it in many different places. The first place we'll go is Joel. Joel mentions an end-time army of God that will come at the end of the age. Nobody has ever seen anything like them, neither before or will you see anything like them after. And we're talking about everybody before, including Jesus and including Adam. Jesus himself says in the gospel, the church, the sons of God, it says that these will be the first fruits into this.
I got you. Here's part 1. Full story of Simeon Toko.
Simeon Toko was born on February 24, 1918, in a northern village in Angola. Not long after Simeon's birth, a missionary at a Baptist missionary society based in Angola had a dream. He dreamed that a great king had been born in the region under his ministry. He decided to go looking for this baby. In 1949, Simeon Toko asked in his public prayer that the Holy Spirit manifest in Africa to put an end to the abuses of the colonial powers. Toko became a dedicated member of the Baptist Church of Antigua. On October 1949, Simeon Toko held up both hands, spread out his fingers, and told the abusive Belgian to count them. He said, "I give 10 years to the Belgian, not one more or less, to leave this country." As for the other mysterious statement made by Simeon Toko, 10 years later in 1960, the Belgians were obliged to leave their rich colony of Congo. This incident was confirmed in Angola in 1994 by Pastor Andelino Kanhandi, who was a cook at the Kakonda agriculture compound where it happened. On January 4th, 1959, witnesses attest that many cherubim and seraphim emerged and held off Belgian colonial army. Citizens of Leopoldville saw an army of about 1,000 angels, non-terrestrials, very muscular bodies, imposing. These human-looking beings, but with supernatural powers, demonstrating an extraordinary force. For example, a witness saw one of them on the road sweeping a 5-ton truck with one hand. Belgian soldiers opened fire on these angels, but to no effect. Colonial army was in a panic and disorder. Angels disappeared as suddenly as had appeared. According to the African natives that day, Simeon Toko had unleashed his army. 4th of January is the day of celebration today in Kinshasa. A year after this extraordinary event, Congo became an independent country, for the Belgians were forced to leave their rich colonies of Congo. Some of these attempts were witnessed by Pastor Kahandi himself. In fact, it was the outcome of one of these murders that made Pastor Kahandi a believer. Simeon Toko was incarcerated and, for the purpose of stemming his popularity and breaking his followers. After being deported and arriving in Angola, never again would Simeon Toko rest. His life would be a string of non-stop attempts to kill him to prevent his mission. Let us follow what he experienced from Leopoldville, where he was unjustly incarcerated, to Angola. While incarcerated in Angola, the Portuguese authorities deported him to the Colonato of Vale do Loje in the municipality of Bembe, northern Angola. Number 2. From Bembe to Waba Kokonda. All of these deportations took place in a 12-year period. Simeon Toko's captivity in these prisons and agricultural compounds lasted from 3 months, as at San da Bandeira, to as long as 5 years, as at Ponta Albina. Thus, when he was sent to slavery in an agricultural field in Kakonda in southern Angola, his head was offered for a price. 2 Portuguese foremen, excited by the reward, decided to take their chance. They put a plan into action to murder Simeon Toko. During a stay in Angola in 1994, we collected the testimony of Pastor Adelino Kanhandi, who was a cook at the Kakonda agriculture compound. He saw what happened. Busy with cooking, he heard a voice calling him, "Kahandi, Kahandi, come here." It was Simeon Toko. Once outside, surprised and curious, Toko told him to stand there and be watchful. Once again, the Son of Man will be tested. Strange words in particular for Kahandi, who was not then a Christian and didn't understand the term of what Simeon Toko wanted of him. Curious, he watched. One of the Portuguese foremen showed up and hailed Simeon Toko. "Hey Simeon, you see that tractor over there? There are weeds clogging the sower. Go clean them out." Submissively, the docile prisoner crawled under the engine to fix it. When he was under the engine, the foreman sitting in the driver's seat started it up, which automatically activated the rotating blades of the seat sower. Simeon Toko's body was instantly severed in several pieces. Terrified, Kanhandi stood frozen to the spot, watching. The foreman shifted into reverse to back up and check the damage. A second foreman who was in service as a flashed a victory sign indicating that they had succeeded. Then the unbelievable happened. Before Kanhandi and the two Portuguese accomplices, the body of Simeon Toko recomposed itself. Simeon Toko stood up. Kanhandi could not believe his eyes. The Portuguese ran away in terror. From that day on, Kanhandi believed in the Lord, and his entire family converted to the church of Simeon Toko. It was also that day that Simeon Toko made it known who he was behind that smallpox-marred face, purposefully behaving in accord with the following scripture. Jesus said unto her, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. In another instance, the plot was to drown him at sea. In the plane with Simeon Toko sat a Catholic priest and members of Salazar's secret police known as PIDE DGS, including the pilot and co-pilot. Their mission was to fly over the Atlantic Ocean and after about an hour's distance, push Simeon Toko out of the plane into the deep sea. The moment the PIDE agents rose to subdue him and carry out their murder, Simeon Toko stood up and ordered the plane to stop. The aircraft stopped in midair. It stood still, not advancing an inch, nor rose or fell backward. The crew was stricken by panic. The priest could hardly breathe, and hoarsely huffed out desperate prayers. Simeon lifted his eyes and hands toward the heaven, and after a short prayer he ordered the plane to move again. At once the plane started moving. Another story refers to a most remarkable attempt by some astonishingly misguided men to kill Simeon. Tools under dictator Antonio Salazar's orders. Some doctors found themselves reading the reports of his purported invincibility. They thought they might pass the time by drilling for the secret, which seemed to protect the mysterious African man. They meant to perform an autopsy on a living human being. Under the pretext of removing a tumor in his chest, the doctors had Simeon Toko taken to a hospital. They put him on an operating table, cut a jagged mortal wound in the left side of the center of his chest, reached into his chest cavity, and pulled out his still beating heart. The aorta and other arteries were severed by scalpel, and his heart was removed. Simeon lay dead, his body covered with warm blood that splashed out of his heart and chest. Simeon Toko came to on the operating table. To their horror and bewilderment, his heartless corpse was moving on its own volition. He opened his eyes, sat up, and looked at them, the chest wound by which they had casually murdered him gaping open. Why are you persecuting me this way?
Okay, I found something interesting. This guy here is Simeon Toko from Africa. And I'm going to play you a little clip, and hopefully you'll be able to hear this about what he's all about.
So the story goes that in the 1960s there was a black man in Africa who came in with abilities complementary to those of Jesus. And he was performing miracles. He was starting to get people to listen to what he had to say. And the cabal tried to kill him.
Have you heard of a man that goes by the name of Simeon Toko? Some people call this dude Black Jesus. Some people call this dude a miracle worker. And a lot of people don't even believe any of this stuff happened. This man was so cold, he even had his own religion called Tokoism. There's a story out there about this man stopping a plane in midair. And no, the plane did not drop. The plane stopped and just stayed there like this. The government tried to kill this man so many times, but he always came back to life. One time they took his heart out. He came back to life.
And remember, I was told that I heard, and remember, I was told at the time that if I disclosed this, that I would be killed. And I ended up putting it in the book anyway. The story was that this guy, they finally said, okay, we're going to bring you to the United Nations and share your message with the world. Let's get had all these fighter jets dock with the plane.
Buddha, ikitu ni mind blowing, ikitu ni nare.